All right, so now that we have the server portion of our personal lab environment with the MIIM DC001, that's server 2012 R2, we're going to make that our Active Directory domain controller. We need to do a client. So again, I'm in virtual VMware. I'm going to go ahead and choose typical. I'm going to browse out to the folder that I have that has my Windows 8.1 ISO. I'm going to choose next. I'm going to go ahead and put in my full name. I'll put in my complex password. And I will pause the video while I put in the license key. So now that I put in the license key, I'm going to go ahead and give the virtual machine a name. I'm going to go with MIIM. That's going to be my Active Directory domain. This is going to be I'll just call this a DSK0001. So it's going to mimic a desktop computer. I'll say next. Again, I like to store as a single file, especially since I'm using solid state. And if you notice, it's going to allocate 2 gigs of RAM to this machine, which should be more than fine. So essentially, on my 8 gig quad core machine, solid state, I should easily be able to run 2 gigs for, shutting down everything on my base OS. So that's the operating system that VMware is installed onto. So that we call that the base OS. And then I should be able to run easily the domain controller with a couple gigs of RAM and the client with a couple gigs of RAM. And if I want to get crazy and start working with Windows 10, I could go ahead and do a Windows 10 client as well. So as you can see, it's going to go through, it's going to create the disk that I need, and then do the install. So as you can see, it's almost done creating the disk. This is a pretty quick process. And it fires up the virtual machine to begin the installation of Windows 8 64-bit edition. So once this is done, what we'll do is what I like to do before proceeding is go out and register the machines, make sure I get all of the updates. Something that's not necessarily required, but I want to make sure I have the most up-to-date machine, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these machines. Currently, they're in NAT mode, which means they're going to be able to communicate through the NIC card in my laptop computer out to the internet. But once I go ahead and fire up the domain controller and install DHCP and DNS and these kind of things, I just want to be able to have these two machines communicate with each other and not necessarily interfere anymore with my base OS, because at the point that I run DHCP, now suddenly I have a DHCP server that's giving me an IP address for my client computer, and now another DHCP server, and that can just at times really be a mess. So as you can see, it's installing. I'm going to go ahead and pause while it completes this portion of the install. All right, so it's done with the basic install. It's going to go ahead and complete by rebooting the machine and finish the install process. So it's getting devices ready. Boom, boom, boom. And now it's rebooted and it's setting things up for me. So once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video at this point. It'll go through installing all the apps from the Windows Store, etc. And then I can update the machines. And then we'll go to the next step, once I update all the machines, of preparing them with Active Directory and assigning the client to the directory. Take care.